Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with a new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and I'm still going strong with the Bungalow Lane collection. And I can't believe I haven't used this paper yet. This is paper number 20, and it's the one with all of those little mini squares that have all the different patterns of all the papers in the collection. And I pulled out a really old heart punch, one of my Martha Stewart punches that I've had for forever. And the idea that I had was I wanted to use some of these squares and basically punch a heart in the middle of some of these squares. So I would have the square with an open heart in the middle, and then I would have the punched heart to also use. So that's where I'm going to start. My first thought was I just wanted to kind of mix and match all these different patterns together. And then as I got going, I, of course, decided, hey, I'm in the mood to make a rainbow layout. Is that a shock? No, it isn't. You know I'm obsessed with making rainbow layouts, and so this one's I can't even talk. No exception. But yeah, I had good intentions of using different patterns and different colors, but I just sort of thought, there's plenty of squares on this one paper to make a rainbow. And so that's what I did. So that's all I'm doing here is punching and cutting and making the squares. And I'm not even quite sure how I want to put these on a background. I tried to go through all of the pattern papers and use a pattern paper as a background for this layout, but I decided to use cardstock instead. So I kept going, and I pulled out a sheet of gray textured cardstock, which is different for me because I've been on a white kick lately. But I like this gray, and I have a picture of me and my husband, and I printed it in black and white so it would really pop against all of the colors. And you can see how I got the rainbow going there. And what I'm going to do for mixed media is go to town with the white gesso, and this bottle is quite gunked up there. I need to clean that off. But now, this gesso is from Liquitex. It's the one I use all the time for the white gesso. And yeah, I was scraping so fast that my camera could not keep up, so it kind of goes a little bit blurry in a couple spots here. So what I wanted to do was create some white, faded, hazy, cloudy looking effects on the background. And a lot of this is going to be covered up with the squares, but I want the white to kind of show around the squares and through with the hearts. Now the trick to doing this, for me anyway, is to work fast, because when you put gesso on something that's colored, like this gray paper, it's going to start to dry pretty quick. Especially when you start to scrape it thin. And I'm using a 2-inch silicone brush there. And I know I've sped this up, but I'm scraping pretty fast, and I'm scraping it pretty hard because I didn't want a lot of streaky lines. I just wanted it to look kind of messy and uneven, but I wanted it to be kind of like a foggy effect. I didn't want it to look like I had used brush strokes. And it's really challenging to get it to look like that sometimes, especially when you're using something white on top of something that's colored, because you're instantly going to see that white. And I knew that a lot of this would be covered up with the squares, and you'd only be able to see parts of it, and that's the effect that I was going for. You can kind of see how this is looking, you know, and then I know where the photo is going to go, kind of up in the upper right corner area. But I don't actually use a lot of watercolor on this. I'm only going to use gold here in a little bit. I just decided that I liked the white, you know, and sometimes less is better. But the gesso is dry, and it looks like a hot mess, I know, but it's dry, and it's ready for any color or any watercolor that I want to add. But I'm going to start with some white acrylic paint, which is also gunked up, that I need to clean off. Now this is just plain white acrylic craft paint. I'm going to add a dab of water to thin it out, and then just use my brush to start splattering. And I want this to be sort of faded dots. So the best way to do that is to just splatter it on. Now if you want it to be nice, bright, crisp drops like you see here, let it dry naturally. If you want it to look faded and hazy and subtle, you want to dab it up pretty quick. And I'm going to use my paper towel roll here and just roll it right over, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It kind of dabs it up and makes it look a little bit faded and soft. So like I said, if you wanted it to be more crisp, let it air dry, let it sit longer. But I love this effect of the white, especially on a colored cardstock like this. It just pops. And I had intentions of using multiple colors of shimmers or watercolors or whatever on the background, but the more I looked at the squares once I put them back on this gray, I just liked the way it looked with the white, you know, and the squares bring a ton of color to this layout already, and I didn't want to go overkill. You know, sometimes you can do too much and it just winds up being so busy that it's just too much, you know, for my taste. So I decided to kind of just go more on the subtle side. And since I like how this is looking, I'm going to very lightly add a little bit of glue behind each of the squares, and that's the Scotch tacky glue that I use in my fine liner bottle. The same fine liner bottle I've been using for quite a long time. As you can see how grungy it looks from my gesso-y fingers all the time. Glue that down, and then I let it dry, and I decided to stitch. I went with gold, metallic gold thread, and I did a little bit of zigzag and a little bit of straight stitching, and I wanted to bend up the edges to give some dimension and some texture, and I love how that looks. Love, love, love that. And so I decided right then and there that my accent color was going to be gold, because gold is kind of neutral, and it kind of goes with everything. But I looked at it, and I looked at the gray hazy background, and then these squares were so nice and crisp and perfectly colored that I wanted to give them a little bit of white hazy effects in some areas. So I just used my finger, went back to the white gesso, and smudged a little bit of that over a couple of areas of some of these squares, just to give it a little bit of a weathered effect. And then I come back in with the hearts that I punched out, and I think I'm going to use some of these later on once I start the embellishment phase. I'm going to go ahead and prep the photo here with some tissue paper. I just like to add that as a border. Sometimes I add pattern paper and tags or things as multiple layers behind the photo, but in this one I'm just going to do the tissue paper just to give it a little bit of a torn, subtle effect. And then here's where I'm going to come in with the gold. And the gold that I'm using is the Heidi, no, it's not Heidi Swap. It's basically the same as Heidi Swap, but it's the Jen Hadfield Gold Glitter Spray. And I got that a few years ago in a Hip Kit Club kit. So I'm not sure if it's available anywhere, but it's Jen Hadfield Gold Glitter Spray. And I just started with some splatters, and then I decided to kind of smudge it around a little bit. So I got my brush with a little bit of water and thought, I'm just going to kind of create a little bit of a watercolor effect kind of around the edge of the photo there. And I think the gold is a good color here because I used the gold thread with the stitching, and it's not one of the colors on the background. So it's not a color that's going to, you know, distract you or take away from the rainbow. I think it's just going to be kind of like a subtle effect. And plus it gives it some shine and some sparkle, which of course I always love. So yeah, I mean, I didn't want to take away from the rainbow or the white effect behind it. So, so yeah, very, very little amount here of the gold, and I love how that looks. But I did want to add a little bit more kind of to the bottom left, so I do dab a little bit of the gold down here by the blue, the light blue row, just to kind of pull some more gold, but I don't do a lot. I don't want the gold to take over. I want it to be just one of those things where you look at the layout and you're like, oh, I see something shiny. It's a little bit of sparkle here and there. And I want my photo to be a little bit crooked. I don't want it to be perfectly straight when I glue it down. It's going to be kind of tilted at an angle, which is an effect I love to do. I do that quite frequently. I wanted the squares to be perfectly straight, but the photo to be a little bit crooked. So yeah, this is another way to use your sprays. You know, you don't have to just spray it down and leave it. You can dab a little bit on with your nozzle and then use a brush and just treat it like watercolor. You know, you can move it around the page and make your watercolor a little less messy, because I know a lot of people shy away from mixed media and watercolors because it's messy. Well, this is a way to control it. You can just do a little bit here and there, and you don't have to make a big old mess. You can, you know, just do a little dab if that's what you want. So I'm going to pop the photo up with some adhesive foam to give it a little bit of lift, and then I'm going to start to go through all of the embellishments. So what I want to try to do is embellish tone on tone, which I do a lot. And what that means is I want to look for, you know, something pink to go on the pink square, something yellow to go on the yellow square. And not every single square is going to have something, but I'm looking for small things. When I have small little bits or small areas of color, I'm looking for small embellishments to add. So I'm looking for any little tiny, you know, flower stickers, heart stickers, phrase stickers. And I try lots of things. I don't want to have too many things kind of sticking out around the photo because I don't want it to cover up all the hearts. See, like that little puffy phrase sticker is perfect. It says feels like home, and it fits perfectly on the pink section. And then I have that one that says better together down for the blue section. So some things I find are just the right color and just happen to go, and so I make it work. I find a couple of little circles with white hearts that match those two, the two red colors up at the top, and then one that's light blue. I go through the 8-page sticker book and find a couple things to use here and there. That says my happy place, and it's white with the red writing, so I want to put that kind of close to the red square. And this one down at the bottom, I think it says our story or this story. I do try a lot of things that don't work, or I can't find the perfect place for it, so I put it back, and just keep looking, you know. And a lot of times I will see, you know, one little part of a bigger embellishment, and I will just cut it out, you know. And I've said that several times in many of my videos, is if you see a piece of something that you want to use but not the whole thing, you know, don't be afraid to take it apart or to cut pieces out of it. You know, it's your layout, it's your products, so you can do whatever you want. I'm going to smudge a little bit of white gesso over this metallic gold XO heart just to tone down some of that shine, and I'm going to put it somewhere, I'm just not sure where yet. I'm going to move it. It's not going to go on the red section. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive foam behind some of these embellishments. That Make Happiness is just a flat cardstock type sticker, or a paper sticker. I'm sorry, paper sticker from the 8-page sticker book. And then here's where I'm going to try to bring in some of the punched out hearts, and I'm going to pop all of those up. And I'm glad I did this. It's basically a homemade embellishments. You know, that's one good thing that your punches are good for, is creating your own little die cuts. And so I have all the colors of all the squares, and so I don't want them to fill out the punched heart in the middle of all the squares. I want to kind of offset them and make them maybe a little bit to the side or above it, somewhere close to the color, just to add multiple hearts, and I like that. And I like the fact that they're popped up off the page. I think that just adds some shadowing, and you can see the difference that adhesive foam makes. It's something that's so simple but creates such a neat effect rather than just sticking it flat, because, you know, the squares are flat. They're flat and stitched down, and so it's nice to kind of mix and match something flat with something raised up. I'm going to glue all that down because I like how it's looking. And then I'm not going to try to add too much more. Like I say multiple times, I don't like it when things get too busy or too crowded, or it starts overshadowing, you know, your photo or your background, or things that you want seen, because sometimes over embellishing can just make it too distracting. So I'm going to make sure. This is what I've got so far. You can see there's some dimension there. everything's not super flat. I'm going to come back in. Now my thing is the title. I was like, what am I going to do for a title? Where is it going to go? And I thought I'd mix and match that little sticker that says sweet. And then I thought, well, what could I do that's short and sweet and green? I was like, oh, sweet day. Short and simple, and I can put the day on the green section, sweet on the yellow section, and it still kind of makes sense with the rainbow. Because this was, we were sitting outside on a bench at a restaurant not too long ago waiting for a table, and so, the scrapbooker that I am, I'm like, hey, let's take a selfie. Knowing good and well, I just wanted to scrapbook it, but hey, that's what we do, right? We take pictures of everything, just for the sake of a scrapbook page. So yeah, it was just a regular dinner date. But yeah, I like this sweet day. And it matches. And I like that the title is short and sweet, and it's consistent with the tone on tone. And I like mixing and matching titles like that, I didn't want to do something else that was going to be really big and take over the blue section, because I like that each square has something on it, but it still has plenty of open space to breathe. And I did not forget my thread. I'm going to do my thread. I decided to add a little bit of that orangey yellow golden color, and it's very subtle. I don't even think you can barely see it from here. But you can see it up close in the close-ups in the final shot, I think. And I am going to add some gold thread over to the right. Oh yeah, I do forget I add some more. I added the light blue heart down there. I felt like it needed one. But I'm going to come in with some matching. I was trying to stick with the golden yellowy color over here to the right side of the photo, since I had some gold there, and I added a couple more little stickers from the 8-page sticker book, some hearts, and then I'm going to wedge some of the metallic gold thread, the same thread that I stitched with. And I had to kind of play with it because the metallic thread is a different texture than the colored threads. It's not more of a cottony. It's more of a shiny, I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't loop and bend as easily. So I have to kind of glue it in parts and make sure it's just like I want it. But that's all the thread that I'm going to do. Add a couple more gold hearts. I thought about adding some thread in all the matching colors, but then it would just get too busy and too much. And I thought, no, that would be overkill, and I'm trying to avoid that. So these are little teeny tiny gold hearts from the 8-page sticker book. And then I decided to come back in again with some of the white acrylic paint, and I'm going to cover up the photo and just add a little bit more so some of that goes on top of the squares, because when I did that the first time I had not glued the squares down, and I want it to be subtle, so I'm coming back over it pretty quickly with the paper towels there. And I like how this turns out. It just kind of gives a little bit more interest to the squares. And yeah, the white acrylic paint is easy. It's perfect for adding your white splatters. I've just never had any luck with actual sprays of the white, so the paint works great. Here's what I got so far. I'm almost finished. I know the lighting is not 100%. My lighting was wonky on the days that I was working on this layout, so hopefully you can see it. I do add a little bit of journaling kind of right under the corner of the photo there. I was just going to add, this was a fun dinner date and then the actual date, and I wanted to use my gold pen, but it was not working correctly, so I had to come back over it with my black pen, and it's fine because the photo's black and white. The last thing I'm going to do is add in a couple more teeny tiny heart stickers from this 6x12 cardstock stickers. There were a couple that matched, and then that's it. That's the final layout. I really like how this turned out. It was fun to basically create this with one pattern paper. I love that square pattern paper. Again, that's paper number 20 because you can get a lot out of it. But yeah, I think this was fun. I love the color scheme. Something about this collection just kind of inspires me to make rainbow. I think I've made several rainbow layouts with this collection. And it probably won't be my last, let's be honest. But here are all the close-ups. You can see all of the dimensions, all of the embellishments, the paper, the stitching. the gold, the white, all that fun stuff. But I'm going to link Paige's blog and the Bungalow Lane. Oh, there's my YouTube. Yeah, that's not supposed to be in there. Oops. That's my little thumbnail for my video. Oh well. I'm going to link Paige's blog, the Bungalow Lane collection, all that fun stuff. And you can let me know if you have any questions. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you in my next video.